Welcome to the Mad About Wayne podcast from the Wayne County Historical Society in Wayne County, Georgia. We hope this time together is informative, educational, and maybe even a little entertaining. Mad About Wayne is brought to you by ProSonics Audio Engineering. Now, let's get into today's Mad About Wayne podcast. Welcome back to Mad About Wayne, the podcast where we dig into the stories, places, and people that shaped Wayne County, Georgia as part of our American 250 celebration. Today we're talking about something every county has, but few people ever stop to think about: the county seat, where it was, why it moved, and what those moves tell us about life in early Wayne County. We're beginning with Tuckersville and moving to today and the city of Jesup. Let's introduce our guests. Today we've got with us Mr. Earl Watson.
Hello, everyone.
Mr. Watson, can you tell us about yourself a little bit?
How far we want to go back?
Well, what your roots may be in Wayne County.
Well, my roots are on that half of Wayne County, Little Creek area.
Okay.
Bennett's, and my dad worked with Brunswick Pulp, Georgia Pacific for about 42 years, and so I had the opportunity in college to do some cruising with him during the summers, and so I learned all those dirt roads on the eastern half of Wayne County because at that time most of it was woods and owned by Georgia Pacific or Brunswick Pulp at that time when I was cruising.
Okay.
And so I've got that, and then of course taught school.
Okay.
That's what I was going to school
So
for.
you have that love for history.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Well, Miss Pam Hughes, you're back. Would you like to reintroduce yourself, please?
Back. I've never been here.
Oh, I thought you were here for the other one. I apologize. She's with the archives. So, go ahead, Miss Hughes. And Dr. Hughes.
What would you like to know?
I'd like to know a little bit about yourself.
About my history?
There you go. And what brings you to talk about the county seat?
Okay, well, I'm a Wayne Countian through and through. I've traced it back. The Causeys, which is my mother's side, and then the Rogers is more up here around the Jesup area. But I grew up in Hortense, which now most of that is in Brantley County, but we still live there on the very edges, and so that's my thing. And then Tuckersville, Courtney actually got me into that, and it's amazing how Tuckersville has brought so many people together, because I didn't really talk. Earl is our technology person, and then I've known Courtney. So when she said Tuckersville, I always love a good mystery. So,
and that would be me, Courtney Tarr. Sorry.
Yes. And so we've just started trying to dig and find out as much as we could about it, because nobody really knows where it was.
And that's been a big hole to dig in.
Oh, yeah. And last but not least, the woman that kind of brought us all up to speed on the county seats in our lifetime, Miss Janet Royal.
I am here again. I've been on all three podcasts. So I knew who to get when it came to Tuckersville, because both Earl and Pam in the past have done presentations on Tuckersville. So what we're going to do today is we're going to move through all the county seats. Well, there's 3 county seats. Mm-hmm. And but we're going to talk a lot about Tuckersville because that's the mystery. But we're going to do Waynesville and we're going to do Jesup. So we're excited. I'm excited to have them here to talk about the lost site of Tuckersville.
The lost city.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Watson and Dr. Hughes. Tell us what you know.
Say something just for a minute. When we talk, tagging on to what Janet was just saying, when we talk about Tuckersville, we're not talking about something like Gardai or some little organized city. It was a spread out area along several dirt roads that even stretched down from probably somewhere slightly off Post Road out from Mount Pleasant all the way down to Waynesville toward that direction that, people lived. And Tuckersville was above Waynesville, which Waynesville was in Wayne County at that time. And Tuckersville was never really established as a long-term.
It wasn't an official
county seat, right? Yeah, but Waynesville was the first one. They moved it down that way. Apparently, more people moved in that direction. But
and this is when Wayne County was created in 1805, right? Correct.
Okay. And some of the people had moved there in like 1803 or 4 or 5 at that time.
Well, there were people in this area long before, but the land lottery in 1805, there were 3 land lotteries. So there was Wilkinson, Baldwin County, and Wayne County. And a lot of the people who didn't win a prize in Baldwin and Wilkinson.
Win a prize.
Well, that's what it was called. They would
Yeah.
come on down
The
here.
land lottery, which we just taught in school.
They'd come on down here and they would try to get another. They try to get some land in
Right.
Wayne County. The land in Baldwin and Wilkinson was much better.
It was considered more fertile.
Right, because there was a lot of pines and a lot of
Well,
swamps.
that was what went wrong with the 1803 lottery was they gave away more land than there was, and then some of the land they gave away was not worth having. It was like on the Buffalo, it was all swamp.
Right.
There was no way you could inhabit
Right.
that area, so they pulled it back in, reissued in 1805. In fact, we just had our 220th birthday, December 7th, 1805. But what were the dates of Tuckersville? Give us a pinpoint of what era we're talking about.
1805
05 to around
to
1827.
1827, I believe, would be when John Tucker moved, and I'm coming to the realization that may be the only reason, because he was the postmaster, that the area was even referred to as Tuckersville, because there's no other Tucker tie that we've been able to find. Mm-hmm. And the land that he was on, and we have found some things, like Pam was talking to land lotteries, and there was some Knights, Flowers, Clements, who had large, and we know Stafford, yeah, mm-hmm. And we know that the place where they had started out and intended to build at Tuckersville, the land was donated by William A. Knight and
Clements.
William Clements. So we've got to do some more research on trying to find the information from those land lots and where they overlapped, and the road.
That's a problem in and of itself because of the fact that we've had 5 county line changes.
Exactly.
And the very first county created, it went from the Omaha to the St. Mary's. It was called the Tallahassee Strip, and the widest that it was 10 miles wide. Mm-hmm. And I know
right.
Pam can address how the people had to take care of the dirt roads. Everything was the dirt road, of course. I don't know.
Yeah.
But so you had all that, and so then you had the somebody had to have court. Somebody had to be the legal address, but it was never actually designated by the legislature to be a county seat.
Right, but
Right.
It wasn't important. It was important back then because there, like you said, there was the post office.
Yes.
There's supposedly a postmarked letter that was sent to Governor Early. He was the governor back then, by Elias Fort, and it was postmarked Tuckersville. And then John Tucker, he was the first postmaster. Then you had William Knight and then Robert Stafford. Those 3 men throughout the early 1800s, you hear their names repeatedly. They were very influential. They were road commissioners. They were, officers of the court, clerks of the court. There's documents they would sign, and a lot of the wills and deeds, if people would pass away, they would be appointed to be the appraisers, and so they would go out and appraise the people's property and list everything they had and how much they had, and who, decide how it was divided up if there wasn't a will. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of influence and a lot of power, but there's other things that Tuckersville.
Well, and you mentioned Elias Fort. His grave. If you just see his burial spot, you
Mm-hmm.
know he was somebody important.
Oh, yeah.
If that was put up back then, I don't know when it was put up.
It's that big
But
granite thing, isn't it?
Yeah, with a fence around it, wrought iron fence. But anyway,
Now, I've been told that that's not the original side of his grave.
There was a rumor that it was moved, that his grave, he was actually moved. It was bulldozed in like 50s or sometime or another, and that was put back up. Now, I know my daddy, like I said, who worked with that part, is not, he had heard that too, but had no knowledge of it. And Martin Proudfoot, he worked with, down at Mount Pleasant, didn't have knowledge of it that I know of. So I don't know for sure about that, but yeah, that's something we've heard. But his grave is off of a post road on the side that we're looking at, that, the extended area where Tuckersville had to have fallen according to what information we have.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it's not a little short or small place community. Mm-hmm. It was a spread out area. over roads. And where the actual post office where John Tucker lived, we've looked at several places where roads cross and go in the other settlement areas, which would be ideal places. But we've got to find records that indicate where that land was.
And that's important, I think, because we know it existed. We can see it in legislative acts, and we can see it in newspaper postings that it was part of the postal route, because they would post the postal route in the newspapers. But I've read somewhere that you can't, because you can't find any physical evidence. It's not even labeled a ghost town. Yeah. But I feel like it's important to somehow locate and find something that gives us some physical evidence so that we can have a historical marker, because it was a huge part of the beginning of Wayne County, and the people that were there, and the roads were huge. I mean, Post Road, we still have those roads, and it was important in the economy back then. And when it went to Waynesville, and when we get to that part of how Waynesville became the county seat, right. Waynesville was very prosperous.
Well, and you don't want to forget about the people that established what you're here for, or what,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I tell all the kids all the time that history is important, because, one day you won't be here and you don't want to be forgotten. So that's the same thing with Tuckersville. You don't want to forget about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I won't forget you, Courtney.
I won't forget you either, Pam.
We're going to have to find those land lots to really narrow down a particular spot. Now, we do have coordinates. We've seen some incorrect coordinates. I've got one set I think are correct as far as coordinates, distance from Darien due west, and the distance north of Waynesville, which gives us information as to the general area, but that's still a large wooded area.
Very large.
And a number of roads and intersections that feed to other.
And Ms. Royal, you can tell them,
communities.
you said that UGA came down at one point and tried to find it?
No, that was Earl, I think,
Earl.
said that. But
Yeah.
what I was talking about was they came down for the side of Mount Venture and Mary Musgrove's train
Right.
post.
Right.
And they essentially took a bulldozer it was not very scientifically done. They just kind of scooped it up and took it back to Athens with them. And
My
that
dad
was
there
in
when
the...
they did it, so he could tell sometime.
Yeah, and
more
that's
about
in
that.
between Lower and Upper Sansevilla.
Yeah, they were looking for things down there.
And actually when they looked at the artifacts that they had gathered, it predated 1742, which is the time that Mary Musgrove was there, and when the massacre at Fort Mount Venture, where the Spanish, that it preceded the Battle of Bloody Marsh by a few months, and that removed the Spanish from South Georgia. But they found where something had been burned at that site, and they could tell by the beads and all that were left behind that it was actually older than 1742, which the French were here first and then the Spanish. So, but yeah, that would be the area that the Post Road, where did it cross the river?
Post Road, it obviously, if you're familiar with it, comes out of Mount Pleasant. If you're going from Jesup to Brunswick, you turn right at Mount Pleasant, you're on Post Road.
Right.
If you turn left, it's actually called Howard Road. It forks to the left, to the right and to the left, or stays straight and forks to the left. If you stay straight on Howard Road, that is also, I believe, part of what was Post Road, because it leads straight down to the river. Now, you have to walk now because there's no road all the way down to the river. But at the river, when you get there, you are directly across from Barrington Ferry, where it was located.
Is that still
So
Wayne,
that
or
was
is
a
that now
main-
Glenn?
You're still in Wayne County.
Still in Wayne, okay.
Yeah. But that, so, that Post Road had to come, I think, to the river at that point, because that was one of the main crossings for the river in that area.
I
You get
know
up.
that when it was established as it was a federal initiative because they were trying to move the mail more efficiently and quicker. And then when Roosevelt, with the New Deal and Highway Administration money, they straightened out Post Road. And that does not help you guys who have physically looked at so many maps and studied so many coordinates. It doesn't help your quest to find what might be the site of Tuckersville.
And I mean, Memphis, like you just mentioned maps, and we've talked about maps, but to make sure everybody knows that we have the maps back from the early 1800s, right on up through the 1850s and beyond. And 1853, 54, 55 is when Tuckersville disappeared from the maps, period. Before, it was the only at time on a bunch of the maps, it was the only, what would you call it?
Only marked location.
Only marked location.
Yeah.
There was no Waynesville at the time. There was no Jesup. It was formed by the railroads. Basically, is what.
Yeah, there was a railroad there, but that would have been a whole lot later on. Where
later on when it became county
seaboard.
Yeah.
Was down on that end, and we were ACL. But tell us a little bit about your search and what you've done to gather your information.
Well,
It's a lot.
I have read a lot of things that other historians have already compiled. And then I have started actually trying to read the primary documents. So I've been reading a lot of the legislative acts, pulled those up. The Georgia Digital Archives has an amazing amount of information. FamilySearch.org has a lot of free stuff. So, and I've called through old newspapers. So what I found in the old newspapers is interesting because it always did the mail route every week. They would tell you where the mail was going to go, and Tuckersville was part of that. It would go, here's the path that the mail is going to take every week. And then in 1814, there was a newspaper article that a correspondent at Tuckersville, which is kind of funny that we had a news correspondent at Tuckersville, but they had written to the Indians. There was an Indian alarm. There was some people near Buffalo Swamp. So that had been attacked by the Indians, and they had scalped them. And so people were, that made people a little fearful. They were a little bit more, because you have to remember 1814, that's not
Creek
that
Indians.
long. Yeah, I mean.
It was, most of the area was occupied by Creek.
Yeah, still. And so to imagine these settlers who have moved to this area and they're sharing it with Indians, and while there's some friendly, they didn't know what they were coming into. And a swampy, mosquitoes. These people were from up north that traveled sometimes and from England. And so just imagine those frontiers. But that was in the newspaper. And then there was another one it was in 1822. So William Knight was still here. And there was a guy named Bradford. Apparently he was from Pennsylvania, but he had made his way down south, and he had swindled a lady and had said that her husband had died and that he was going to pick up money for her. And so he went to he ended up in Tuckersville and because they would send money to widows. So they sent money. One of the majors sent money to Tuckersville for him to pick up. He signed her name for it, said he was a friend of the family's. Well, William Knight posted in the newspaper because this Bradford, he said, I'm pretty sure this is the same guy. He taught in my home. He taught my children. He was well educated, explained in detail what he looked like and how he would get really excited, like when I start talking and I start just going too fast. That he would get excited and start stuttering. Yeah, he would start stuttering. So that was posted for 2 weeks in the newspaper. There was a $100 reward. So I don't know if he was ever caught or not. But to think about the lives of the people and all the things that were going on. I don't want to be the only one talking, but William, and there was court going on. William Clements, he was the clerk of the court as well. They would hold court in his house because they didn't have a courthouse.
Right, and that's the one I told you about the over there. Not far from Tuckersville, and I told you I'd heard the men talk about it.
Talking about the oak tree?
Not far from Tuckersville, so where's Tuckersville?
Well, that's the question, Earl.
Well, you were talking about the mail routes that they printed the mail. Do you have any? Were they in order of stops, or are they alphabet? How was it listed in the newspapers?
So it would say it was going to leave by 10 a.m. on one day, and so one particular one, it would go from Montgomery by Tatnall to Tuckersville, Beans Bluff, Barrington, Clark's Bluff to Darien, and it was once in 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks, the mail route was moving through, and it would go from those towns. That's how it would travel.
That sounds like Tuckersville was on the fringe. It was on the outside.
It was one of the distribution facilities. Were you able to find anywhere like who did Tuckersville serve, like Pendarvis or?
Probably just those areas around there. I don't even know.
Nothing by name, though.
Well, I mean, I would think if it was the only post office there, those people were just having to travel. Yeah. So I mean, it surely would serve the people that are around that area. But I don't know. Was Pendarvis even around?
Yeah,
Just
it
a
would
little
have been-
community.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whenever
there were houses
the
on it.
federal, we were talking about earlier. We were talking about the federal road system. George Washington put in the federal road system, and it crossed coming from Tattnall County. It crossed at Fort James, which was above Upper County, Gleason Copeland Landing.
Mm-hmm.
It went down, followed the river down to Doctortown,
160.
and went from Doctortown to Pendarvis. And
Right.
probably would have left Pendarvis and gone to the area
Well,
of Tuckersville because
right.
it went down to Trader Chill in
And that
Charleston
was actually
County.
Highway 169.
Highway 169.
Which, what we think of now as Lanesbridge Road 169 is still in the same location, basically, as what we see on these early 1800 maps, mid 1800. And what's interesting is if you follow it, like you said, through Doctortown and then on down, it actually went through Tuckersville. Tuckersville was on Highway 169, which was not a highway. It was a dirt road built by the state, though, whatever.
It was a route called
route.
169 on those maps. I think the
169.
1830 map.
Earlier.
Yeah, it's not called that anymore. But if you go on further south, there is a Highway 169 that picks back up I think it's in Georgia. It picks back up, if not North Florida. But
I think it must be North Florida because
You talking
doesn't
about
it end in
now,
Jesup?
yeah.
Oh, there's 169 up in Virginia.
Oh, well, there's one down.
I went all the way up.
Well-
We had to go around 95 one time that way.
Well, I tracked this one that went through Tuckersville, and if you go down, there's a place where it picks up. And one thing I wasn't able to find, but I found years ago, and I think I found it by actually seeing it, and I didn't take a picture. But I believe I was in Waynesville, and there was a street that was named Old Tuckersville Road, but it was just a short thing. But it kind of gave some indication, more affirmation about.
And that kind of goes with the documentation I found about the lady that she was talking about, Robert Stafford, who lived and died on Tuckersville Road. That's what she said, that he's buried in that area.
Is he in Whitaker Hills? That's where the female Revolutionary War soldier is, Sylvia Earl
Who are you
Blair.
talking-
This makes it sound like
But I wonder if there's I want to think there's a Stafford there close to her grave. That's at, I don't know, my highway. Is that 32 and Post Road?
Yes.
I think it is.
It is
Stafford.
32.
So
In there,
you
but is
probably
it
need to
him?
take
I
time
don't
to
know
look
about
at that, but I didn't think
doubt
about it till.
but-
But I believe that's that. Now we know the deeds that we can look at that are available to us online start in 1810, and Robert Stafford is in those deeds, and so is John Tucker,
Yeah.
and he
Now
was having a land transaction with William Knight.
And John Tucker, we keep throwing that out because of Tuckersville.
Yeah.
Because he was the postmaster. And like I said, I'm coming to the conclusion, and that's the only reason
That they named
that
it.
they named that area Tuckersville.
It was probably his house.
Yeah, and probably
I mean, it
when he
wasn't like
left-
a post office built like
right.
we think.
They
It
had
was
a
his
lot of the
home.
land,
Right.
like you talked about, if we can find the deeds of where that Clements and
That area.
Knight, was it
What was
Clements
the
or Knight?
Clements' first
Yes.
name? Was it William also?
Both of them were William. William was popular. Well, you were Knight, Clements, Flowers. And there's a
But
bunch
they're
of
not
them.
your flowers?
Distantly,
Distantly
I
your
would
flowers.
imagine, because
Okay.
that's where my Flowers lived, was on that side of the county. Oh,
So you related to all the flowers in Hortense too?
Probably not.
Probably. Why
The
not?
Pendarvis flowers.
Like Jeannie and
Wayne,
Wayne,
all
and
them,
they're
Okay.
my grandpa and Bill Flowers was the brothers.
Oh, wow. Shout out
So
to the
Pam,
flowers.
Bill was Wayne, and then Shirley and Jeannie's daddy.
Right.
If
And there's actually a road Flowers break that takes you off of Gardai, off the Manningtown Road
I know where that
highway.
is.
There's Flowers break takes
Yeah.
you down there, and it takes you. You can go right into where we're
that
whole
same
big
area that we're talking about,
Yep.
which is that still Wayne County or is that Brantley?
Still Wayne.
It's
It's
still
still
Wayne.
Wayne County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still Wayne County.
You cross
No.
32, I think.
We got to get you
Yeah.
out.
I know. I need to get in the car and drive. It ain't like I hadn't been there before. What else y'all got to share about Tuckersville?
Well, how far did I? Oh, never mind. I think I said enough about the 169 till we find
Well,
out more.
the coordinates that Pam and I found, she called or texted me and sitting there talking about, we got to find it. And I went to her house and I said, they're wrong. They are wrong. We've got to figure, because there's coordinates that are printed on, what is it, is it a letter?
No,
Or-
it's in the miscellany book
Oh, that's right.
from Margaret Jordan.
And that has you on the other side of Wayne County, closer to
Southern Way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not
I
right.
had the right coordinates. I've got to find them, and it put it right where we're talking about from every other indication
Well, there
we
were
have.
coordinates that I've seen in the past that put you on 301 South.
Right.
That's before Broadhurst, and I knew that
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
right. I
Coordinates
knew that wasn't right.
That I had put you. Are we going? How far are we going with it?
Well, we're not telling anybody until we find it.
Well, we don't. We haven't. Well,
No, don't tell where it's at, where we think it's at.
we don't. Well,
So listen here, if you
how
see
far,
people
like, how
riding
far
around the
from-
dirt roads, just know we're looking for Tuckersville.
let me explain something.
We're
There's
not
no point.
trespassing.
You're just going to find pine trees. That was all owned by timber companies and planted. Now they've started building houses
Yeah, and
out
it
there.
said in
but-
something that they just went in and bulldozed the cemetery there. Remember, we read that
Yeah,
years ago.
yes.
That they had bulldozed the headstones into the swamp or the mud or something.
Yeah,
So-
they weren't very
like-
respectful
No,
in the later years because they were. But everybody had
Oh,
their home
you
place
tell 'em.
pretty well had their own
Yeah.
cemetery.
Yeah.
I'll just tell
Yeah.
them.
They didn't,
Yeah,
you
'cause
know,
there's
they
a
had
lot
to do
you can
things
walk
that
up
way.
on in the woods.
But-
Now. It's kind of creepy.
Finishing what I want to make sure I have permission to say.
We're going to get violent here in a
I
minute.
did have coordinates, and it does. Those coordinates put it in the area where we're finding all other indications, and it was north of Waynesville, and west of Darien. I had the coordinates that put it in the right. It sounded like the ones that Pam was mentioning a while ago, or Janet, or Courtney, that they were backwards, possibly,
Yeah.
or something.
Oh,
But
yeah.
anyway,
I maybe so.
yeah.
I never thought
know-
of being backwards.
But here's my thing. This guy did the survey and could tell you down to the minutes in the direction
Right.
Yeah,
from Darien to where
Right.
Tuckersville was. Now Waynesville was just south of it, a few miles.
right.
No, we won't be specific because it was all spread out anyway. But at this point, but the thing is, back in the 1800s, I question, and y'all can fill me in on this. Exactly how would somebody be at Darien or at Tuckersville
And no.
and be able to take a straight line and know the degrees and minutes?
Well, that's what I told Pam. I said, they didn't have GPS back then.
No, didn't have Google Earth.
Guy could have been like, well, that sounds good, and he just comes up with a coordinate.
I wondered that myself.
Yeah.
I guess it's got to do with the sextant and the position of the sun. I don't know. I'm not that
I
kind
guess they
of
worked
a
off things
person.
they already knew
No.
too.
That's that higher thinking. I'm not good at.
Well, I've got a BS in mathematics, and I still haven't
No.
figured it out. So.
Well, I taught mathematics, and I don't have a clue either.
I did
No.
not. I'm the only one here that didn't, actually.
There you go. All righty.
Go ahead.
That's y'all in Tuckersville?
Sure. That's
what
on
else? Is there
Tuckersville.
anything else you can think of?
Not
you
that
want
I
to
can
know
think
about,
of.
Or?
So, Courtney?
Well, thank y'all for the Tuckersville information. We're going to take a short break, and we would like to thank Butch and the Jesup Broadcasting WIFO for letting us sit here and record. Appreciate it, fellas.
The Mad About Wayne podcast from the Wayne County Historical Society in Wayne County, Georgia, is brought to you by ProSonics Audio Engineering. From radio and podcast production to the recovery, restoration, and enhancement of tape recordings, video soundtracks, and phone recordings, to providing live sound services for corporate events, festivals, and houses of worship, ProSonics Audio Engineering is your go-to for all things audio. For more information, call or text 912-297-9911 or email prosonics@icloud.com. ProSonics, the science of sound.
All right, we're back. Now we're going to move on to Waynesville, the first official seat of Wayne County from 1829 to 1873. And we've had a little bit of fun during the break learning about Waynesville between the panel here. So we're going to let Miss Hughes, or Dr. Hughes, I had to quit saying Miss. It's Dr. Hughes now.
It's just Hughes.
We're going to let her and Miss Royal take it away. So, ladies, who wants to talk about Waynesville?
Well, I'll say this. When you look at these maps, Waynesville and Tuckersville doesn't seem that far away. But what I have discovered in my research is that your name had a lot to do with where things were established, because there was legislative acts that when they were drawing county lines, this person was in Pierce, and suddenly I guess they decided wanted to be in Wayne, and so they would just reroute. The legislation would just reroute and give that land back. It was crazy. And so when I think about Wayne County in these particular areas, and it was starting to grow, and people were living in places that I guess their name maybe had, whatever reason, they had some influence. And so there was a lot when you read the records of kind of bickering back and forth about, well, Tuckersville's not the center anymore. And so they were trying to figure out where's the best center. And so that's, I think, how it originated and moved to Waynesville. Somebody said, well, Waynesville's the center.
The courthouse was supposed to be equal distance because they had to walk. Right. So the courthouse was supposed to be in the middle of what the county was. And so that's why we ended up having so many county line changes, and how we ended up being the 10th largest county in the state of Georgia. And we had so many geographical barriers. Also, we have the Little Satilla, we have the Altamahaw, and so that was that. They had to keep it in the middle. And you referenced earlier about the road commissioners.
Yeah.
They had to, each landowner had to give a week a year to road maintenance. That was how they kept the road system going.
Yeah, Pam told me that.
So
yeah, and if you didn't, you could get fined. Like the roads, that was how people traveled, and so it was very important.
It was anybody in the house that was a certain age and up had to do it.
The males,
yes, all the men.
Yeah, the men had to help maintain those roads.
Yay, ladies!
So let's get Waynesville to be the county seat. And we know that that Tuckersville was still there though in 1829.
Yeah,
right.
And the thing, make sure everybody out, the people in, we all know it, but we assume some things maybe sometimes. But at that time, Waynesville was in Wayne County.
Right.
And when, like Janet was saying, it was about the center. Well, now Waynesville's not even in Wayne County.
Yeah, because according to this map, even Holmesville's way over there in the middle of Appling County.
Well, Goose Creek was the county line. And between Wayne and Appling.
Oh, okay.
So when you went above Goose Creek, and that's the thing with your ancestor, Willis Clary, who must have been quite the most, he must have been able to talk anybody into anything because he moved the 3rd and 4th land districts of Appling County into Wayne County.
Okay, so side note on Willis.
And we're not even on Waynesville yet, but go ahead. We're going to get there, y'all. We're going to get to Waynesville.
He married my ancestor, so I'm not technically blood related. But anyhow.
Anyway, go ahead. Now what?
Well, side note, and him talking. So, which ward? Was it 1 or 2 that I told you?
I don't remember.
Well, when he was alive. Anyway.
No, he was alive.
Probably World War
Civil
I.
War.
No, darling.
What are we talking about? I'm lost.
Willis.
You're talking about Willis Gibbs.
Oh, yeah.
That's further down the line. That's not Willis Clary.
Yeah, that's not Clary.
Well, Gibbs was a talker, too.
Yeah, well, I get that, honestly.
Yeah, I'll
we
save
like
that
to
story
use
for
the
another
same
day.
names over again. Waynesville, now that we're back on Waynesville, being the county seat from 1829 to 1873, the 1873 is the Willis Clary, where he talked them into doing a county line change and moving the county seat from Waynesville to Jesup.
That was post-Civil War.
Anyway, Waynesville had the post office. It had the courthouse. It had the first school, the first legitimate government school, Mineral Springs Academy.
Because there's a Mineral Springs in Waynesville. I did not know that.
Yeah, that is what that is. And so, they had academies. They didn't have the high schools. They didn't have the elementary schools. They had academies. You had Richmond Academy and Glen Academy. Right. Well, Waynesville was Mineral Springs Academy, and it was supposed to be medicinal springs, and that's why they were so popular. And they didn't seem to have a lot of population inside the city itself, but you still had the county influence around it of people moving in and out. And didn't have I think they started building a courthouse. They had the courthouse site.
Well,
they used somebody's house. Go ahead.
So William Clements donated 4 acres of land that for the courthouse, and it says that it was on the south side of the Mill Branch near the courthouse road, and it was about a mile from the village of Waynesville and about 4 miles from Ammons Ferry on the Satilla River. So that was where William Clements had donated some land, and they got a bidder. The lowest bidder was a man named Joseph R. Salton, but then as I read, in 1832, they'd come out and that contract got broken. I don't know that the courthouse ever really got built. There's so much back and forth about it. Wiley Robertson had court at his house for a while. Then they were going to sell the lumber and the land. And they were going to move it somewhere else.
And I told you about the tree that they had court at.
The Oak Council,
right,
which is not even a native tree to Georgia.
And that
which
was
is
a passed down
interesting.
story I'd heard.
Now, you mentioned William Clements gave 4 acres for the Waynesville.
I will say, his name is spelled differently.
And is that possibly his son, or
well,
what
it could
time
be.
frame
That
are
was
we looking at?
1829.
Because, we mentioned earlier, just to remind folks, that William Clements and William Knight
and you can't always
donated the
trust
land
the spelling.
for the
well, I know.
Tuckersville.
Well, that's why I said some of these, and even Tuckersville, when I would say Tuckerville, or put a space between Tuckers and Ville, because it varies depending on who's making the notes.
Do we know anything about John Tucker in terms of his family?
Nope.
All
I can't
know,
find anything.
No, that's why I've started looking on the census from back. We got from on Ancestry.com and some other places, trying to find out a little more information. But the only thing I know about him is it appears that he was born in Wayne County around Beers Bluff, and at that time, like we mentioned a little while ago, 169 was the main road through the county all the way down toward Waynesville, and he apparently took that route right on down through wherever Tuckersville fell, right on through Waynesville and down on into Florida, where he was actually a Baptist missionary, and he was also an escort for like wagon trains or people who were traveling or moving from one location to another. And he was shot in the leg in an Indian skirmish in North Florida with Seminole Indians during the Seminole War.
Well, that would make sense if you go down to Ray City, because of that part, the Creek Confederacy and the Muskogee Creek were not like the Cherokee. They did not go quietly on the Trail of Tears. They went down and joined the Seminoles and were they put up a fight.
And so we got that Sun City article that talks about John Tucker being one of them from Tuckersville that came there.
Well, Waynesville had its run as the county seat, and when they did the line, in fact, Brantley County just had its 100th birthday. It was cut out of Wayne in 1920.
Right.
And so it kept its Wayne County name, even though it left Brantley County. It left and became a part of Brantley County. And Willis Cleary had already had it moved to Jesup, which was still station number 6 until he got it named Jesup. And we know who it's named for, even though these people don't know that I know who it's named for. And it's not.
I agree.
There you go. So everybody agrees.
Yep.
So with the post road, it was because of the river. The river was a part of the transportation. And as the county grew and the transportation improved and got more mechanized, so it got to be the railroad. And so Jesup got to be Jesup, the city that trains built. That's my shout out to my friend Cora. I'll have to make sure she listens. Mm-hmm. The city trains built. But Willis Cleary came. He was actually in the third land district of Appleton County, which became the third land district of Wayne County when he had the legislature move the third and fourth district. That is when Scriven became a part of Wayne County. Mm-hmm. Scriven was not in Wayne County until 1873. And so he convinced James R. Jesup of the Macon and Brunswick Railroad to have it cross the Atlantic and Gulf, which would have been the Savannah, Florida, and Western by that time.
Which is why we have the Brunswick and Macon streets.
That's why we have all the streets in Jesup are named for trees or there are ordinal numbers, first, second, third, but except for Macon Street and Brunswick Street. And he named the streets. So that was the transportation became the key part of how we got to be Jesup and why we got to be a railroad town was because of Willis Clary knowing the importance of the train in that how it's going to affect the economy and all. And our mother told us that when she was a child, they came to Jesup. They would come to town. Everybody came to town on Saturday, and the train depot was the public bathroom. And unfortunately, it suffers with that now. We're still we're the Amtrak station. Somebody's got to go somewhere. So that's how we come through the years. We're from Tuckersville to today. With county seats, we just have Tuckersville, unofficial county seat, but county seat just the same. It functioned important as a county seat. Right. And then we have the history of Waynesville, where it grew up with the post office and the Mineral Springs Academy. And then we have Jesup, and it's just celebrated. During COVID, we did the 150 something another.
I just remember dressing steps.
150th birthday. We had to do that in the middle of a pandemic. And so that's how we got our county seats covered. So that's pretty well today. Anybody want to throw out anything on Waynesville or Jesup or ask any questions or what we know? But we know our county seats. So we have achieved our objective for the podcast today.
Well, I want to say something real quick, and this is a shout out to our old friend Mary. Uncle Lennox told me about the county seat, how Hortense was a part of Wayne County, that when Mary Ellen's brother was born in Hortense, that he had to come here to the courthouse to do the birth certificate and everything. And that it took him so long to get from Hortense to the courthouse, he forgot what the baby's name was supposed to be. And so he asked the people at the courthouse who the president was, and it was Truman. So that's how Truman Rowell got his name.
I don't know that I'd repeat that story.
I just thought that was neat because I didn't think about it.
If I was Truman Anderson's mother, I would be very unhappy with him not remembering the baby's name by the time he got here from Hortense. Excuse me. I done turned him over to the Andersons.
It was one of Angie's and uncles.
Yes. So anyway.
One question.
All right, let's hear
back to what the whole thing, but anyway, about the Tuckersville thing, we talked about the land lots and make sure people know, they were 490 acre, around 500 lots that were given. So these were huge land lots. That's why these people had land in different areas. But there's one name, the Clements, that I don't think any of us have been able to trace to anywhere from anywhere, any Clements from that, or what land he owned where, but it's an integral part.
I'm going to get on it.
Of what we've got to do. Yeah, I am too. We're going to get back on it.
I looked at that really quickly. You can look at our historical records, and I did see where the William Clements it was Robert Stafford that transferred to William Knight, right? And Robert Stafford was a postmaster also.
Yes,
right.
He was.
So it's in the deed books, but the deed books only start until at 1810, and I didn't have time to actually read the deed because it's that old script, and you got to be able to read it to
and they deed all the horses and cows and dogs and cats and.
Yes,
I can read it.
This was a transfer of property. This wasn't a will; it was a deed, a real estate transaction. It was a grantor and a grantee. And so that's something we can look into as we go forward.
Yeah, because that's going to be the only way to really pinpoint, which like we said, there's not going to be a pinpoint as far as what was referred to as Tuckersville, because it says it was large area, encompassed large area, but we are to be able to find that particular point where apparently John Tucker lived. We got to have some deed information.
Well, we can look into that as we go forward with our America 250 observance and celebration.
And I like how we did this since Wayne County's birthday was just celebrated. I think this, with the county seats. I like that. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good choice, Miss Royal.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. And this is going to be our third podcast. It's going to be dropping right before January. And next month we will do our adventure labs, and so we're rolling right along. So, all righty,
Thanks for listening to Mad About Wayne. We're here where we keep the past alive, one story at a time. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed today's Mad About Wayne podcast. For more information on the Wayne County, Georgia Historical Society, please visit our Facebook page. Don't forget to subscribe to this podcast so you receive notifications when a new episode is released. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you again soon. Remember, we're mad about Wayne.